Hi, John.
Hey, Jennifer, how are you?
I'm starting my Christmas cards.
I hear you. We've already got ours done. Well, at least the work ones are done.
Oh, I haven't even started those. These are just like my sorority sisters.
Oh, yeah.
Let's bring some normalcy back to 2020 Christmas
That's
cards.
right.
Yes.
Okay, for those of you that are joining the webinar right now, this particular webinar and next week's webinar is eligible for ECE TRIS credit. So in order to get that credit, many of you are already doing it, but please just sign in via the chat. Just let us know who you are and who you're with, just as we did during our live virtual event in September, and we will make sure that you receive credit for participating today. Like we did last week in our first webinar with Jennifer, if you have a question, you can go about that a couple of different ways. You can raise your hand in the standard participant column, or you can go to the Q&A and actually ask a question or use the chat. I thought last week everybody did a great job of sort of monitoring those and responding to those in real time. So if you have questions, please let Jennifer know. But otherwise, we will get started right at 2 o'clock. So we've got, Jennifer, about 450 people signed up for today.
Oh, wow. Super.
So that's really great.
That's a great number to say that people are starting to cook their dinner.
Well, you know, in Kentucky, and I'll mention this again, but in Kentucky, we've got, we had new orders come down last week, and our schools, public and private, are all closed until December 13th. So this topic of virtual learning, I think, has many Head Start programs that had been operating in person. Many of them are working feverishly to make sure they have some virtual learning options. So today's program could not come at a better time.
Oh, wow. Perfect. Jessica, she said, I can barely hear you guys. Can you hear me now? I sound like Verizon.
Jessica, you might want to check your settings on your computer, whether it's sort of the sound for Zoom or the overall sound. I can hear Jennifer okay, and I think she can hear me okay.
Perfect.
So it may be on your end. All right.
She got it. Perfect. I love when they get it.
Okay, gang, we are right at 2 o'clock. So I'd like to welcome everyone to the second in our series of webinars with Jennifer Reed of JFK Consulting. Jennifer joined us last week to have a conversation about Focus Area 1 and 2 reviews. This week, she is joining us to talk about virtual learning. And as I know, all of you know, Head Starts across Kentucky are wrestling with this challenge, not just throughout this semester, but most recently in the last few days with the new governor's orders running through December 13th. What we're hearing from Head Start programs across Kentucky are that not only are they going through December 13th, but many of them are already going and anticipating that they'll be closed for the remainder of this calendar year. So they're looking forward to January of 2021 for in-person. So that being said, there are a lot of great solutions that are out there. I know we've, as a group here in Kentucky, have talked about it a lot, but Jennifer has a presentation as well as a lot of resources and sort of strategies to discuss with you today about virtual learning. Not only the resources that are out there, but really the mindset and how you have to go about it, how you have to deal with folks and things you really need to consider. So with that, I'm going to turn myself off and I'm going to turn Jennifer on. And Jennifer, you should have the ability to share your screen.
Let's see. Yes, I do. I
All
am the
right.
host. All right. So, hello, everyone out in the beautiful land of Kentucky. So, today we're going to talk about virtual studies. Now, I want to talk about it in several different layers because we all know that across the nation, we're being shut down because of COVID and, the rates are so high. But we have to think about this in a holistic approach. For my Head Start directors and my early Head Start directors and executive directors, this is for you. Remember last week we talked about FA1, and the main thing we talked about was being accountable for our staff. And if we're doing at-home work, we have to remember if they're at home, they must be at home doing what? Working. And that's kind of the biggest things that we're seeing, that when programs are at home, normally they're not working their full 8 hours. So you have to make sure that we have strategies in place so that we hold staff accountable that they're at home working during their work hours. So I'm going to show you a strategy of how to track virtual studies, because at the end of the day, we still have to track the studies. We still have to make sure that we get our data, because we still have to make sure that we get our checkpoints in, because the year is still rolling on, but it's just rolling on in a different way. We also must have to make sure that through our virtual studies that our teachers keep in the back of their mindset, I still have to make sure that I am teaching in a class performance method. So what I am going to show you, our company, we've created studies for other programs across the nation, and these are weekly studies. And, the biggest question is, well, can we do these in a group or individual? These should be done individually. And I'm going to show you what should be done group-wise. If you kind of take it from this methodology, you can have your teachers working a great portion of the day. So I'm going to start off. I'm doing, look, my self-talk, right? So for example, let's say you guys say, well, hey, Jennifer, we're just going to go with your company's studies. So at the beginning of each study, you will receive a study guide. Study guides, this is a study guide for this month right here. So what will happen is, just what we're going through kind of now, your staff will get this same training every week from me. We will go through the study and I will show them how to use it, how to teach it, because at the end of the day, they have to be prepped. Just by a quick show of hands, how many of you guys, and I'm going to turn this off so I can see, I'm going to look in the chat box so you can say me, or whatever. Let me stop my share. How many of you, and I'm going to the chat box, how many of you that had teachers that struggled traditionally, had low class scores in like their everyday classroom arrangements? Oh, we're getting hands raised just that quick. So exactly. So we have to be specifically sensitive in how we're asking these teachers to actually do virtual studies. Because if I couldn't do a traditional lesson, how can we ask them to do a virtual lesson? So here is the rest to this. So I'm going to go back to my share screen. So for this study here is going nuts over nutrition, and it's the study of foods. And I kind of give like a quick sneak peek of what we're going to be talking about. And for this particular lesson that I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you the perfect pasta one. All right, so this is the lesson for my programs that are actually doing the virtual studies with us. This is the actual study for next week. It's the perfect pasta. Again, we're talking about foods and we're thinking outside of the box. This is a thing, outside of the box, because you're going to have to bring back a little bit more excitement to lessons, because this is something new for families and for a lot of your teachers. Directors, this is something else that you're going to have to think about it. Put a little circle here. Ask yourself, how tech savvy are my teachers? That's a good question, because if they're not tech savvy, that's another barrier that you're going to have to face. So here we go. On every lesson, the lesson is just like a regular school day, So once we start the lesson, we start off with our what? Good morning song. Snap, what happened? Here we go. All right.
Getting tested for COVID-19 helps you to take the steps needed to protect yourself.
It's the start of a brand new day, so get up, get out of bed. Dance and move around.
Time to wake up, sleepyhead!
Oh, jump and sway. Jump, start your day.
So many things are waiting just outside your door.
Like birds.
And me, and friends like me. Jump
And sway. Jump, it's a brand new day. Shake, 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 feel wide awake. Get ready for a brand new day. Get up and away. Let go.
It's time to play. What are you waiting for?
I love to get up early and take in the morning view.
Wow!
Then I see my bats flapping. There's counting to do. 1, 2, 3.
I start my day outside.
And I promise you that song is going to be stuck in your head for the rest of the day. I promise you that. So after the teacher plays this song right here for the kiddos, then she starts her lesson. Now, I want you guys to remember, as we're doing virtual studies, this is how your teacher should be teaching regularly in a traditional classroom. We just took it from out of a brick and mortar to the computer screen. So last week, we talked about a trip to the grocery store. So last week, we always start every lesson talking about what we did last week. And that's, going back to this super cool manual, and it's organizing the skills. So think about that as you're going, because reorganizing statements, thinking about the objectives. And can you tell me about the last time you went to the grocery store? Now, this week's lesson was a trip to the grocery store. So what happens is this lesson here will be taught next week. So hopefully the parents took the kids to the grocery store this week. So when we get to this lesson next week, the kids can have something to actually talk about as they're talking about, what did you do when you went to the grocery store? All right. And then we go into this week's lesson. This week, we're going to talk about pasta. And then here is your webbing. Again, this is something that you should be doing inside your regular classroom, but this is virtual. Tell me what you know about pasta. Pasta can be long, pasta can be short. You can eat it with sauce. Macaroni and cheese is made from pasta. And remember, we have to connect things to the real world. Olive Garden sells pasta? And then ask the kiddos, have you ever been to Olive Garden or a restaurant that sells pasta? Our children eat out more than we do as adults for some reason. Here is the book for the week, Spaghetti with the Yeti. And this is a super cool book. What I like about our virtual studies is that any book in the world that I want is at my fingertips. And only thing the teacher has to do is click on the link and the book reads for them. Enormous words. Everything is connected back to the book now. Yeti, backpack, mountain, a feast, and hopefully our kiddos had a huge feast for Thanksgiving. I'm gleaning down, spaghetti. Now here's the thing, in the regular classroom setting, if they just say like spaghetti as an advanced word, but they don't say what it means, we can't give them credit. This is mapping. So again, it's actually training the teachers to actually map their language and how they should be teaching when they get back into the brick and mortars. These books, right, these questions here, these are your book reflections. And this is, again, is showing teachers how to ask those questions after she reads a book read or during a book read. And I want you to pay close attention at how our questions are being asked. How high do you think the mountain is? Opening the question. What do you think the Yeti wanted for lunch? Can you name me foods that crunch? Tell me about your favorite monster in the book. What do you think the Yeti's favorite food is? Do you think George is tired of climbing the mountain? And now, these right here are the questions that you ask the kiddos. Every lesson has a family activity, and family activities cost $0 to no dollars each week. So this activity right here is we're asking the families to look up in your cabinet to see if you have any pastas. You know, mix them up and allow the children to sort them. Here's another family activity. Write down the numbers 1 to 10, place them on the table or on the inside of an egg carton. Allow the child to match the noodles on or near the numbers you wrote down. Now we're asking families to do one-to-one correspondence in the very simplistic form. So this is a family activity. Now with our family activities, we ask the parents to take a picture and put it on the program's Facebook page or send it to IT, and IT can put it on the company's website. And this drives traffic now to your web page. Now you're actually getting noticed other than when your LIHEAP money comes out. And then teachers, we tell you guys to spotlight families who did the activities so that everybody can see how everybody was different in creating their different activities. I incorporate STEM inside of the activities. This is about the science fun. Again, music and movement. This right here, we had to do this one on top of spaghetti, all covered with cheese. I lost my poor meatball when somebody sneezed. Here and now, if somebody sneezes, we're looking at everybody like, they better get out of here because we don't know what they have when they sneeze. So again, our old favorite, but we made it new. And here's the link so that the kiddos can actually dance and sing along with the song. Literacy. This right here is about week 8 in our study that started up this year. So what we did was our letter recognition, it went in phonemic form. We didn't go by A, B, C, D, E, F, G. We went phonemically so that when we grouped letters, so that when we get to a certain point in letters, we're creating word families. So for example, we're at the A. This is our first vowel that we're doing, the S sound. And I'm explaining to the teachers that when you teach letters, you teach sounds. You do it all together. So you don't teach 26 letters and then come back and say, you know what? The letter A makes the or the A sound. And we notate, you know, again, creative curriculum, you put in the letter that you want the children to actually, and I had to take the P off. I just noticed that it should be this one. The letter that you want the child to recognize in a different color so it draws their eyes to it. Some weeks we focus on color recognition, shape recognition, but because this week we're focusing on an at family, it's not that much for a child. So again, old time Sesame Street, and we do it together. Remember the A makes the sound, and remember last week we talked about the T sound, so at. AT says at. You remember back in the day we had the children sound, well, I know with me, we had to sound out words. So at. And then we talk about the at family. You remember the bat? And before this study, we did a study it was called Things That Go Bump in the Night. It was all about nocturnal animals, and Basie the bat was super cool in that study. So here's Basie the bat coming back to us. So bat, cat, and we just keep going. Fat, hat, mat, Pat. And you know I'm a Wheel of Fortune fan, so that's why I did Pat Sajak. Rat. And then I just gave the families just a super cute, simplistic @family card that they can keep at their disposal. And all the way around, we do health and nutrition. We're spotlighting nutrition this week and health. So here's a recipe for mac and cheese. All of our recipes feed between 6 to 8 individuals for under $8. So again, and we ask families to please take a picture of your nutrition corner foods so that we can publish it, have, on our website and all that, those cool things. So here's the recipe, and it's super simple, super cool, because we want our children to actually help families cook, because when we're talking about 2 cups, those are super great math skills that we're trying to teach our children. And the next recipe is homemade spaghettis and meatballs. Every week we do family talk. This week it's about coronavirus, because Corona is running rapid through our counties again. So, and the first question every week is, Mom, Dad, how are you? Because this right here kind of sets the tempo for the next week. And like when the moms and dads says, listen, I'm just totally stressed out, our company makes sure that we put a lot of stress relievers into the activities, into the virtual studies. And then, can we help you with anything? 90% of the Head Start programs that purchase this from our company, they're CAP agencies. So when the light heat comes out, or if they have rental assistance, this is the time when you get to family talk. This is when your family advocates, everybody calls them something different, social caseworkers, social workers, or family service workers. This is when they join the virtual study, because now this is her time to deal with the family. At this time of the study, the kiddos are gone, because they're probably half tired of the teacher anyway. The kiddos are gone. This is the time, this is the adult time, because this is when mom or dad needs to say, well, listen, we're struggling with food insecurities. And now if you're like a CAP agency, you can connect them with some food resources. You have to keep it holistic, because just because your teachers are going virtual, it's your whole program that's going virtual. So you're going to have to make sure that you have some type of stability, even with your family service workers, even with your mental health. And I'm coming to the questions because they're popping up real quick. Your family service workers, your mental health, your health, and your nutrition. These are different ways that we're involving all of the individuals in our program. Now, when you come back, like on a Thursday or Friday for a group setting, this is what you do on your group setting. Additional resources. Additional resources change every week. This first one is how to make Clorox wipes. That's for mom and dad. And then it's sesamestreet.org. I normally put books up here so that we can get another story time in, but it just varies with additional resources. And so that we're not copyrighting anybody, here's all the references that we use throughout this actual session. Now, before I get to the questions, let me show you how you have to document it. Because if you did not document it, guess what? In the Head Start world, it did not what? It did not happen. All right, so let me get my virtual. So here we go. Log form. All right. So let me share my screen again. So, all right. Because you do know that everything has to be documented, and just document it. So you will put your beautiful Head Start program logo here. You will put the teacher's name, the family that she was working with, the date, the time that the session actually started. Well, the center, the time that the session start and end. Now, let's pause right here. Center managers, middle management, education managers. When you receive this form from the teachers, you need to be calculating this time because this is your proof of how many contact hours that your staff had with families. If the session started at 11:07 a.m. and it went to 12:34 p.m., calculate those hours. Calculate the time. So when you report out, you can say that John Mountley Head Start Center had a total of 3,000 hours of contact hours with families. And if somebody say, show me, here is part of your proof. Now, remember in the lesson, like for example, tell me what you saw when you went to the grocery store, or the webbing when we talked about tell me what you know about pasta, and the book reflections. This is where the teacher can capture a lot of her information here. Because remember, your teacher still must complete checkpoints. Your teacher still must complete anecdotal notes. So this is the way that your teacher can actually get anecdotal notes. This is a way that your teachers can still do their checkpoints. Our lessons are strategically planned so that a teacher can fill out checkpoints, whether it's the core or it's the continuum with creative curriculum. We make sure that we get those movements in, the science, the math, the literacy, all of those things so that the teacher can intentionally ensure that she's doing checkpoints properly. Here is where the family comments can go. For example, if a family needs light heat, well, light bill, because they're not going to say, I need light heat assistance. They're going to say, I need my light bill paid, or I need for somebody to pay my rent for me, or I need food. This is where this goes right here. And right here, what's next? Like if your program is having special events like food drives, I know a lot of CAP agencies in South Carolina, they had turkey drives this week where they gave away free turkeys. This is where that information goes. Or if your center is doing a food drive, or if your center is having like a diaper pickup or something like this, this is where that information goes. And the family's next the family's next appointment for the virtual studies. So that's, and teachers must submit this to their center manager, the center director on a weekly basis. This is how your teachers are actually being held accountable for their work at home. Now, I bet you say, so how am I going to know when they're actually getting on sessions? It's a simple call log. Now, this right here, for programs that are fancy smancy, that has Zoom or Google Meets or Kid Classrooms, this can be done in a peripheral of ways. This can actually be done just over the phone. So either which way, the parents still can get their study and their time in with the family. So for example, this right here is the call log. Again, this should be completed the Friday before they do virtual studies. Now you will put your beautiful program logo here, your center name, your teacher's name, and this right here, for example, if she's doing it over the free conference call, because as in Kentucky, I know there are a lot of very rural areas where they don't even have cell service or internet service. So this is done over the telephone. Now, if it's a Zoom link, you still fill all of this out, because as a director, you need to know when Miss Reed is going to talk with Miss Davis, the time and whenever it was completed. This should be done the Friday before the Monday. This is called tracking. All right, I'm gonna pause right here. Questions. I saw a question. All right, it says, can we use this curriculum when HSPPS requires us to implement the curriculum with this FIDES injury? Can we use this curriculum for just 1 year? All right, here's the super cool thing about this question, Miss Tammy. a program that started with me last year using this, they're using this now for their home-based program. You can use this over and over and over again. And with the curriculum to its fidelity, because it is not the norm, you can still use this is as close as to the fidelity as you're going to get, not being in a face-to-face. So John, can you unmute Miss Tammy so I can see if I answered her question?
1 second.
Okay. Hi, Miss Tammy.
Tammy, you can unmute. There you go.
Tammy? Miss Tammy.
Yeah, it looks like she's unmuted and we've got her cleared to talk, but I'm not sure if she has a microphone or something like that. So.
Well, Miss Tammy, if you can if you can type in yes or no that I answered your question, that would be super cool. I have a Miss William. I'm not going to mess up your last name. Maybe?
Milby.
Oh, I was very close. Can you unmute Miss William, Mr. William? Awesome, Tammy.
All right, William, you are allowed. All you have to do is unmute yourself.
You're still muted, William. William. All right, well, I think William is having technical difficulties as well. Oh, I have another question. So you said this form is completed on the Friday before the Zoom. Can you clarify? This is essential for planning for the, okay. So here's the thing. Can you unmute Ms. Small, Shantae Small? I hope I pronounced your name right. Is it Shantae?
It's Shanta.
Shanta, oh.
It's okay.
So Miss Shanta, this is how this the log form goes. The log form, what is your position first so we can make this thing right?
Okay, so I am the Assistant Director to Child Development.
Okay, so this right here form should, your center director should have all of the contact log forms on that Friday, because at the end of the day, your director, your center manager, your ed coordinator, they need to know what families are being contacted so that you can actually show proof, hey, we're still working. And here's the thing, if you guys are doing Zoom, just for accountability, I always tell programs, have them invite you to the session. That doesn't mean that you have to jump on every session, but just out of the blue, click on sessions. I even tell a lot of programs, I have a lot of programs, they send me a link, I'm a part of the link, and I kind of pop on and I'm just like the superstar of the session. I'm like, hey guys, how you doing? And all of that. And it's just about accountability now, because we're doing something different. And at the end of the day, remember last week I told you, you're still financially responsible for the program.
Absolutely.
And a lot of programs have realized that you have 30 classroom teachers, and on a Zoom session, because we're actually doing virtual observations now for programs, and we're jumping on Zooms, and the director is thinking that it's 12 kids on a Zoom. It's one child, maybe three, or it's none. And then you have parents that say, well, I was up here last week and the teacher never showed, or the teacher canceled. So this is all about accountability. And we're sharing these different type tactics with programs to say, hey, these are some measures that you need to put in place for tracking purposes.
Right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome. So I don't see any more questions. Guess what? That was for Head Start. Now, let's look at the other side of our life with Head Start. You know, a lot of time programs, they just try to water down, they just try to water something down for early Head Start, but we're not going to do that for our babies, right? We're going to make sure that they have their own virtual studies. So I want to get one. If you're happy and you know it, we're going to do that one. All right. So again, it's series after series after series that we're doing these things. Same call log form that the Head Starts are using, the early Head Starts can use as well. So this right here is a series on emotions, right? So this right here is about this was week 4 in the studies, if you're happy and you know it. And again, we talk about last week before we go on to this week. And the lesson before this lesson was nursery rhymes. And the 3 nursery rhymes that we really put a spotlight on was Humpty Dumpty, Little Miss Muffet, and the Itsy Bitsy Spider. So this week, if you're happy and you know it, and this is what we're telling the families. Okay, look at the child and make the following expressions in the upcoming slides. If you see your face with your face as you both look in the mirror, you can also use a camera, just flip the lens. So we're going ahead telling the parents, all right, you're going to need a mirror for this lesson, and you're going to need a phone or either your phone for this lesson. Here's the thing. The reason why, like, for example, let's say that you say, well, Jennifer, we want this from your company. We go over this the week before you teach it. Because when we go over it, I tell the teachers, all right, here's our to-do list. Tell the parents they're going to need a mirror. If they don't have a mirror, they can use their phone. If they don't have that, we're just going to, come up with different ways to find it. But most families have a mirror or either a phone. And things that we need for the lesson, we go ahead and have it. Some of my Head Start programs, like, for example, we're doing a cook night on tomorrow evening. We're doing what we call $3 meals. We're going to do three $3 meals that can feed a family of 4. So you're talking about feeding 12 people for under $10. And what we did was we sent the recipe cards to the Head Start program. We actually sent them different things that they would need. And what the program did was they kind of purchased like the chicken, the stock, or the beans and all of that stuff. So the families actually went by the center and picked it up, so that when we do the family night, which we're going to talk about next week, some of the family night activities, they can have the materials ready and available. Or, for example, we did a sip and paint. The programs had like the little canvases and water paint. So again, it's making sure that everybody has all the materials that they need before you actually start the lessons, whether it's your virtual studies or either your parent activities. And we're going to talk more in depth about parent activities next week. So back to this lesson. Have fun, take a picture of each expression. So here we go. Happy. How do you look when you're happy? And I drill with the teachers, just as excited as I am with the lesson, that's how excited you must be with the lesson. Directors, you will know which teachers are going to be the bomb when it comes down to virtual lessons, because their parents are always going to be there because they're excited about the lessons. It has shown that teachers who don't want to do virtual lessons, who are not into the virtual lessons, their participation rate is extremely low. So again, happy, sad, angry. And for the toddlers, you can ask, well, what makes you angry? Disgusted, scared. Super cute short thing about feelings, inside out, awesome Disney movie. And it really taught us about social and emotional and mental health, basically. So again, Inside Out for the kiddos. And if you're happy and you know it, everything reverts back to our topic, back to our study. Again, family activities. Now, this is when we're breaking it down. Toddlers, this is what you do. Toddlers. And that's it for this lesson. Now, let me go back to an earlier lesson. This was one of the lessons that we created back in, it was like April-ish. This program, all they had were toddlers left. Let me show you a lesson where it comes into the play where you have infants and toddlers. Let me make sure that you're seeing it. All right, so this right here is an early on lesson, Life on the Farm. All right, so who lives on the farm? Cows live on the farm. Sheep live on the farm. Chickens live on a farm. Horses live on a farm. Farmers live on a farm. This song will be stuck in your head for a month, as well as this one. Now, when we get here, this is when the lessons begin to become very individualized. If you are talking with an infant, this is where we're focusing on. If you're talking to a toddler, this is where we're focusing on. So those are how virtual studies should work. These right here is when you have well thought out studies. Also, when you guys are doing your virtual studies, you have to make sure that your teachers are prepared. Virtual studies is something new to a lot of people and a lot of programs. Virtual studies is not normal unless that we were homeschooling, and 99% of Head Starts are traditional face-to-face. We did have some home-based, but we had actual providers going into the homes. Make sure that your teachers are comfortable. Now, here is the tragic piece of virtual studies, and these are when the hard conversations need to come into play. John just said that Kentucky is basically shut down until December 13th. Here's the thing. If you decide to go virtual studies from now until March, these are the conversations that you need to have with your staff. They need to make sure they have current contact information for all of their families, and just let them know, if you cannot keep in contact with these families, you know, I cannot justify why you're here. This right here will, you know, make a teacher perk up and say, I need to make sure that I'm doing everything so that my families are thoroughly engaged in what I am doing. Family advocates, the same way. This right here, a program said this was a lifesaver for them, because when I told the family advocates to jump on the Zoom call with the families, that made them say that, okay, this family won't get 8 different phone calls a day from our Head Start program. I said, just think about this. When the robocalls call your phone, what do you hit? Decline. So keep it systematically. If my appointment with my teacher is on Mondays at 9 o'clock, that's the appointment that I'm going to want every Monday at 9 o'clock. And then I know that on probably Thursday or Friday, I'm going to have another session that my child still gets to see his or her friends on a Zoom, because that's the group session. So those are just some things to think about when you're doing Zoom. I am going to pause right here and answer this question from Mr. Christopher Holliday. How long should teachers spend with each child per week? Is it developmentally appropriate to have one-on-one lessons that extends 30-minute plus? All right, this is an excellent question. Christopher, we looked at our virtual studies as if it was a home, like you were a home-based program. If you were in a home-based program, you would give 90 minutes of instructions, and it was roughly about 45 to 50 minutes for the child, and the other portion of this virtual study, the home base was for the adult. Kind of same thing here with the kids. And this goes for different kiddos. For example, we have some children who can stay on this virtual study from 45 minutes up until an hour with no problem. Most children are on an iPad that long anyway. Now, here's the thing. If you have a child in your classroom that may not be able to handle that long period of time, as a teacher, you need to know, I need to break these up into smaller sessions with this family. So again, 30 minutes is kind of the max, especially with early Head Start. And with the Head Start, most of the 3s and 4s, they can do the 45 minutes. That's just because the videos or interactions that the teachers are having with the families, because it's a back and forth, just like we're doing now. Christopher, did that answer your question? Can you unmute Mr. Christopher?
Oh, there he goes. He just said yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, Christopher. Melissa, it said you asked, do you have guidance on how we can make sure that our children in service getting what they need through virtual study? All right. So Melissa, here's a great way to find this out right here. Your teacher should already know the children's strengths and their weaknesses. So creating virtual studies, let's say that you say, well, JFK, we're going to go with you guys for virtual studies. This is how we do it. We ask them, hey, is there anything specific that we need to actually do for the virtual studies? For example, we have a classroom that is totally inclusion. A lot of the children are nonverbal, hardest lessons a week that we have to write. However, the teacher is a great asset. We kind of work accents. We work hand in hand with that. We also give the teachers an opportunity to say, hey, if we were in regular school, we will be talking about the fair because our county fair comes into town this week. So we would ditch everything that we're doing, and that's what we will make this lesson on the fair. We make it conducive to what you will be doing at your program. We also give the teachers the flexibility to add a slide. We don't want them to take any away because how we created the slide is developmentally age appropriate, and we want the teachers to keep the class focused on it. So again, making sure that they get what they need with the Head Start. We're touching on the different domains: concept, cognition, gross motors, science, and all of those other things. So Melissa, did that answer your question?
Yes, I was actually talking about like speech services and DD services as well.
Oh, I'm glad that you asked that. So that everybody the family can get one phone call, we kind of coordinate these right here so that we're not bumping into speech or OT and PT, all those different services. Those services are still provided by, and I'm just saying in South Carolina and North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, because those are the main ones, a lot of them that are using this right here. And in New York, they're still correlated through the LEAs. So what the LEA is doing, especially with the program here in Sumter, the LEA is still communicating with the teacher as they're working on the child's objectives. And the teacher is making sure through the lesson, she's still pulling out the child's objectives. So that's one way that we can ensure that the teacher is still meeting the needs of children with special needs.
Thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome. Justin, it says, are there any parameters that you can recommend for group lessons, such as parent permission, list of expectations? All right, so here we go. I'm going to show you this first lesson. And because this right here was the groundbreaking lesson right here. This lesson right here set the tone for all virtual services. Let me find it. open. All about me. It should be in the Dropbox. All right, so here we go. When doing virtual studies, most definitely you're going to have to set some ground rules. So for example, with virtual studies, this is the first lesson. Ground rules were set right here. Online ground rules. Focus eyes. That means that we were telling mom, listen, please be home on your virtual services. Please don't be in a car. Please don't be in Walmart. Please be home, because we want this to be as normal as possible. Happy faces, you know, this is not something dreaded that your child has to do. Make sure that the child is excited about learning and ready to learn. So we're telling them, please be up out of the bed. Please be ready. Please make sure that little Johnny is awake when we start our session. A lot of programs ran into the issue of, oh, the child is asleep. So when you're making the appointment, you need to ask mommy, is he an early riser or late riser? And then again, when we found this out, one of the family talks was, keep your child on a regular schedule. And for the group session, we tell families, get into when we say a clear spot in your house, that means a picture that has nothing to do with anybody, no faces up there, because we want to keep homes as safe and as secure as possible. We also want to make sure that we're not looking into anybody's home. We tell them to be in a secure corner, because we don't want to see who's walking in the back of your home, you know, and we ask that, hey, let's kind of be secure. And we tell the teachers to tell the parents, do not share this link with anybody, because this is our link. Because when you start sharing the link, that causes for corruption to come into your classroom. So to be as safe as possible, those are some of the Zoom rules or whatever platform rules that you're using. Did that answer your question? Miss, is it Justin?
Yes, it
All
did.
right.
Okay. Have you come across other programs that have received parent permission slips?
None of my programs that I've dealt with, they did permission slips, because they told them, hey, this is your Zoom session. But what they did say, these are the different families that will be in this Zoom. They did let them know that just the child name. It was no background information or nothing. Just, you know, LaMonica, Frederick, Kathy, and Peggy's. These are the children that will be in this Zoom session. And that's why your large group session is only once a week, and it is very, very short. That's why 90% of the lessons are done one-on-one, so that you don't have to run into all those issues.
Okay, thank you.
And here's another thing, Justin. A lot of the parents know each other, especially if you're in a small community. And, you know, they're excited. Oh, wow, we're in there with Jennifer and her family. So it's super cool. And if a family has an issue with another family, those are the families that you would keep separated. All right, Miss Kelsey Little. All right, what about when a teacher plans out virtual lessons and activities counseling, but the families aren't willing to participate? All right, here is the hard question, Miss Little. So you have to remind the families that they are still participating in the program. Bottom line, are you willing to give up your spot? Because I'm quite sure that most programs have a waiting list. Are you going to give up your spot? Because your child is holding up a spot. And this is the data that the teacher should be giving to you. She needs to say, well, hey, Jennifer mom hasn't come on in 2 weeks. So now your family advocate should be given a phone call, or either the center director should be given a phone call saying, hey, Miss Jennifer, are you still participating? Are you having any issues? See what's going on. And that's a good way to make sure that families are constantly participating. All right. Did that answer your question, Kelsey?
Yes, thank you.
All right. Anonymous attendee. I wonder who this is. Oh, I like anonymous people. Do you know how to encourage the parents to get on virtual learning? Teachers are continually calling and contacting parents. All right. So it's going to have to be the excitement from within. That's just like Black Friday sales. Black Friday sales, I'm excited, and I'm not even going anywhere but in my living room to probably Black Friday shop. But it's the excitement within. Teachers, you can have like contests. I know one program, they had a contest. The classroom that had the most the virtual contacts, the kids got a free pizza coupon from Pizza Hut from the READ program. You're going to have to put the excitement in the teacher if she does not have it or within the program. And that excitement starts at the top. It really do. It starts at the top. So again, one good idea is, for example, the classroom with the most contact hours, whether it's an ice cream party or either Wendy's for one of the little Slurpees or something. So that is that. All right. And Miss Stephanie, your curriculum is still your research-based curriculum, whether it is high scope or creative curriculum. This is basically a supplemental curriculum. All right. Did that answer your question, anonymous attendee? It would be super cool if you come on and your voice is in like the straggly sound. Anonymous, are you going to come on?
I looked for them in the participants and I couldn't quite figure out how to do it.
Oh, they said yes. All right. So the next question is, do you have any tips or guidance on how to get our families to participate? Again, drum roll it up. Hype up your Facebook page, hype up your web page. I look at it as this, when we're shopping, if the storefront is not exciting, we normally just walk by the store. But Old Navy, I think, has this thing mapped down to a science. Old Navy knows what to put in the storefront to make you want to come in, even if you haven't thought about going into Old Navy or Gap. So again, I know phone calls, emails, but you're getting little feedback. Here's your thing. Send out a letter. Hey, are you still want to participate in the program? And if you don't hear from them, then you drop them and you move on to the next family. But just drum roll it up. Say, hey, the teacher or the classroom that has the most family contact, this is what you can do. I thought food couldn't be in as a reward for anything. It's a prize. It's not food. It's a gift card to the family. Not food. We're not feeding the kids. It's something that when mom and dad is out, they're taking the kiddos to get it. You're not giving the child food. It's not rewards or punishment. It's just like when you give out gift cards for parents coming to your parent meetings. Like, for example, a lot of programs do that. And normally they're like grocery store gift cards. So again, you're not giving them foods for rewards. It's whenever the family goes out. I do know one program, they gave them a link to a cartoon, a popular cartoon. So again, it's all different things and creative ways, because this is not normal. So you're going to have to think outside of the box. So again, those are some different ways. And I really liked it the way that the program did the link for one of it was a really cool cartoon that, the families got to watch. They did a movie night. So really cool. Do you have any tips or guidance on how we can get our family? All right. So did that help out, Anonymous? And restructure how you're reaching out. If you guys can kind of consolidate all of your calls so that a family is not getting 8 or 9 calls from the same center, you know, because parents are going through a lot. Some parents are going through food insecurities, and really they're trying to think about where their next meal is coming from, not listening at the teacher. And then 10 minutes later, the family advocate is calling. 30 minutes later, the nutrition call. If you consolidate all of your calls so that it's planned, you know, and it's purposeful, that helps out a lot. All right. Do you have any suggestions about virtual service through phone calls? You can still use this same type of service through phone calls. On the migrant program, the majority of our parents are in the fields working late hours. I'm so glad. I don't want to mess up your beautiful name. Annia. How do you, Anna?
Ania.
Ania. Oh, I like that. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
So this is what we tell programs. Your teachers may not work the traditional hours because, for example, you have parents that are migrant workers. So instead of their virtual services being at 8 o'clock, it may have to be at 6 p.m. That's why that log sheet is extremely important. So if a teacher's not actually logging in at 8 o'clock in the morning or 9 o'clock in the morning, you see a lot of her stuff is like 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. This right here justifies why. Because you prefer to be done with the adult in the house. Sometimes the babysitter is cool, but it will best be used with the adult. So again, please be flexible with the family's work schedules or whenever that the family wants to come on. That's why on that call log sheet, you ask the family what time is best for you. All right. Parents refuse virtual service using technology. You know what? We had this come up with programs in Florida because of undocumented workers. So we just did the actual phone call, and the programs actually put the virtual lesson on their webpage. So that's how the family pulled it out. So it's just a whole lot of different ways to do this right here.
That's what we are doing. We are using phone calls, and we are also contact the parents out of the normal working hours for our staff. The way that they provided the service is like dropping packets with activities during the phone calls. The teacher trying to explain what is the best practice or the teaching practice that they can use when they work with their kids with these activities that they provide. And also we have like a YouTuber channel in Spanish where the teacher is demonstrating this kind of activity to the parents.
Okay, just keep in mind the activities your teachers still is going to have to collect the data for like your checkpoints and how make sure that they are still able to get anecdotal notes, okay?
Yes.
All right, I want to show you this really quick. I have 2 hands raised. Who's raising their hand? Somebody raise their hands, John? I thought I saw 2 hands raised. All right.
Yeah, let's see here. We've got Debbie has her hand raised.
All right, go ahead, Debbie.
And Martha.
All right, Debbie first and Martha. Debbie? Debbie. All right, Miss Martha. Martha?
Yep, she was there and then she was gone. Yeah, looks like we've just got Debbie. She needs to unmute herself.
Okay.
Okay, well.
I think Debbie is having some technical difficulties. I see a question in the chat box. She said, we also have to remember that families can only give you back information if they, exactly. The packets the packets are being questioned very hard, because how do you know if the family understood the packets? How do you know if the family actually did the packets? It's just not worth it with the packets. The packets were cool the first 2 weeks, but we still have to make sure that our children are ready for kindergarten, looking back at what you would be doing inside the classroom. And if you were in the classroom, you would not be doing all of the rote learning that you guys are sending home in the packet. So please keep that in mind. That was a really good comment, Ms. Kari. I think I pronounced her name.
Jennifer, Stephanie has a question. She wants to know, is this virtual curriculum research-based?
No, this is a supplemental. This is supplemental. You're still using your research-based creative curriculum or your high scope or Frog Street. This is like a supplemental curriculum. Let me show you guys what one of our teachers did with the virtual study. This was the virtual study, a trip to the grocery store. Let me share my screen. So this, because again, this teacher had a lot of parents who were essential workers. So what he did was he did a YouTube video, and he could actually track the parents that actually watched the video.
We're going on a trip in our favorite rocket ship, zooming through the sky. Little lights on, climb aboard, get ready to explore. There's so much to find. Little lights on.
Pizza dough. Good morning. Good morning, students. This is Mr. Aaron again here with your virtual study for the week. But before we start on our third virtual study, I would like for us to review last week's study. And in last week's study, we talked about where the wild things are. And so I do have a couple of questions about the jungle. Do you remember any of the animals that lived on the forest floor? Another question. Do you remember any of the words, our vocabulary, like quiver, rustling, or any of the other vocabulary words? Also, class, did you go on your safari hunt? And if you did, can you tell me some of the animals that you found? And we are...
So you see how creative the teachers took, and this right here was the same virtual lesson that I did. His program purchased a virtual lesson, but he took it a step further, and he made his virtual lesson a YouTube video so that the families can actually come back and watch it again and again and again throughout the week. And we had other teachers who did actual YouTube videos as well. And what he did was he posted this on the program's Facebook page, and it drove a lot of traffic towards the program's Facebook page, because a lot of people who were not receiving services like this, they was like, well, I'm gonna let my child watch this right here. He can get something out of it. So that was, I definitely had to show this right here. And again, he had the book up there, the vocabulary words, the very same thing. He did the questions, the book reflections, and then the family activity is that week was to actually make a pizza. So he showed them how to take inventory, the recipe, and how to make the pizza. And for example, he actually spotlighted the kids for doing their other family activities. Again, planting the seeds and going on their safari hunt, with the kiddos. So again, a lot of different ways. This young gentleman right here had 90% of all of his kids would jump on every week. But again, he was excited within. I had to show that, I spotlight that one all of the time. But yes. Let's see, we are considered teachers are still learning how to use open-ended questions. We can't assume parents will know. And that's right. So for example, our virtual studies has everything that the teacher needs. Only thing the teacher has to do is read the virtual the virtual slides. The teacher does not even have to plan, because the week before she teaches it, we come on and we tell them, we go over the study just how I went over it with you. We go over it with them. And then we go ahead and say, well, these are the things that you may tell your families that they need to have. And again, the open-ended questions are already there for the teachers. The teachers don't have to do anything with this type of virtual studies. And, you know, we came up with this because we said, you know, a lot of teachers struggled traditionally. So I don't want you to fail going virtually. So I hope that answered your question, but that was a really good question and comment. And do we have any more questions? I'm sorry that your internet keeps going out, Miss Daphne. The good thing about it is it's recorded, so you guys can come back and watch it later. If you would like to know additional information about the virtual studies, you can email me. I'm going to put my email address in the chat box and my phone number. And my email address. Thanks for all the emails last week of, you know, saying great job. You guys really don't know that that does a lot for me, because it's different. I know some of you guys are probably zoomed out because you normally would have to go someplace to a meeting, so you only have one meeting a day. And now Zoom has made it possible that you can be in 4 different meetings in a day. So before you finish with one meeting, you're jumping on to another meeting. But again, thanks for all the kind words that you gave to me about great job, and, you know, thanks for the information, and just for the ones who emailed and just asked a deeper question. So again, my phone number is here. If you want additional information about our virtual studies, I hope that this has given you some insight on how you should be moving forward with virtual studies. Programs that use our virtual studies, they said this took a load off of them. They didn't have to worry about their teachers creating anything because everything was there for them, especially the accountability and the tracking. And we was right there with them every step of the way to say, okay, are you doing this? Hey, how many families jumped on this week? And kind of help the program to look at how you are tracking, how you're holding individuals accountable. Because at the end of the day, if they're not having children come in, you may need to kind of restructure. All right. So again, thank you, John, for inviting me to come do these sessions. I really would wish that we could have been in Lexington or Louisville, Kentucky, or Paducah, Kentucky. I'm just thinking of all the places I've been. Where is your information? I don't see it anywhere. So here's my email address, Tammy. It is JLAF8498. I'm getting ready to put it up here on the screen. Hold on one second. Uh, 843. All right, so let me share my screen. Here we go. There's my information. Please call if you're interested, and even if you're not and just want, you know, deeper information to go deeper dive. But we kind of thought out all of the kinks, all of the turns that may happen. Brittany, Patrick, you have a question? Brittany, you had your hand raised? Can you unmute Brittany, John?
Which Brittany?
Oh gosh. Brittany, raise your hand again. Brittany Patrick.
My question is, with the tracking and the forms that you was talking about earlier, we do Child Plus. So every single day we enter that data into our Child Plus information. So would we need to still be doing those forms on top of the Child Plus?
No, because we don't want to duplicate any work. If that is a more simplistic way that you are already doing it, that's fine.
Okay, that was my question, because I was just curious, because I was like, oh man, that's going to put us doing double work.
No, simplistic is best. As long as that we can pull the data and track it, that's all that you guys are going to need to do.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Brittany. We have another question. What are some examples of things that we could use in a drawing for like attendance for a classroom that isn't food or coupon related? Okay, well, I don't want to mess up your last name, so I'm just going to say Candace. A lot of people, they did, some people, they did movie links because, you know, all the movie theaters are closed, and a movie link is a really cool one. They sent over like art supplies to the family house so that they can have a game night, or either a shoots and ladder night where you send over a game, or either, and that family can have the game so that you kind of started off a game night, or either you send over games like Go Fish or Old Maid, and you're helping them with the game nights. That was a lot. That was another one that was actually helpful for them. Another one was they gave out books. I do know a program. They bought a ton of my books that I wrote, Stop, No, Go, and the child got a book, one of our books. I'm trying to look and see if I have any more right here. I don't even have one of my books here, but like, for example, I know tons of programs have books. You can send a book home for the child to have and hold for their very own. Those are different ways other than foods. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay. I
think this was a great topic, John.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been getting a lot of emails from folks throughout sort of asking whether this recording will be available. And I know we'll get the copy of the slides from you and we can share with folks. But yes, we will have this recording up later today, and I will I'll send you a link via email to all of the participants that we had registered for this webinar.
Well, again, John, I want to thank you for inviting JFK to your program. And as always, we are here to serve Kentucky and all of the Head Start programs in Kentucky. And again, thank you guys for joining today. I think we were up to like 386 at one point today.
Definitely a lot of interest in this topic. So having said that, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I will remind you that we do have our third and final webinar with Jennifer next Wednesday, December 2nd. During that one, we're also going to be talking about how you can use virtual tools dealing with your policy councils and some of the other business-related functions of Head Start. So until then, I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. If you do have some questions, please send those to Jennifer or myself. We'll make sure that you get taken care of. And like I said, we'll make this recording available later today. So with that, again, happy Thanksgiving, Jennifer. Thank you so very much. And we look forward to seeing you again next week.
All right. Bye-bye, guys. Be safe.
All right. Bye, everyone.